everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name is Stephen Wright. I am joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, man?
Steve, I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm good. Can't complain. Anything going on?
Got a lot of playoff hockey and playoff basketball playing almost, all waking hours here, starting around 1, going till about 1. So we got a lot of live sports on, and the bubble seemed to be working.
Yeah, and I can't wait to advance further in hockey because I am tired of these 3 p.m. games.
Yeah.
Just super inconvenient.
Yeah, once we get one more round, there'll only be, 2 games a day probably?
Yeah, it just start changing over, I would imagine.
Yeah, it'd probably be like a 6 and a 9, so that'd be good. Hopefully, Flyers can close it out tomorrow for us, as we're recording here a couple days ahead of the release date of our draft.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we're happy people come release day.
Yeah.
If not, we'll be playing on release day, so we will see.
Mm-hmm.
But we got a fun mock, at least for us today, a bit of a dress rehearsal for our work league.
Yeah. A recent update to half PPR in the league. So we're doing a 12-team half PPR draft. Unfortunately, we still haven't established a draft order ahead of time or any type of idea or kind of formula as to how you do that. So if anybody has any unique ways that they decide their draft order, ahead of time, so that weeks, months ahead of time, let us know on Twitter. We're looking for something. I've heard people that use the one of the horse races, like the Kentucky Derby, where everyone's randomly assigned a horse, or some type of thing that is fairly even that has 12 participants. So we're looking for an idea. Right now, we just have that the winner of the consolation bracket gets to choose where they draft, but still have to randomize the other 11. You ever hear of any good ideas recently, Steve?
Not particularly. I mean, people do a lot of different things. I've seen like Madden tournaments. Mm-hmm. I've seen Super Smash Brothers tournaments, Mario Kart races, Royal Rumble stuff, both like entries in the actual Royal Rumble and simulating things through one of the games, one of the older games. I think they do No Mercy typically and stuff. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. I've seen Home Run Derby stuff.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of different things. I think we need a lot of ideas because I got a feeling the league's going to be resistant to this idea.
Yeah.
Because if memory serves, I think we just barely got the consolation thing passed.
Yeah, and it was the first time we proposed it. I think it was just new, and not a lot of people do that. But I like to have some type of incentive behind the consolation bracket. So you have really first week of the playoffs, almost every single team in the league is playing for something, and then even semifinals, you have 8 of the 12 teams involved.
Yeah, it keeps people engaged longer.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a great idea. So we'll see. I've heard a lot of different things, but nothing. I mean, some of them are stuck. I like some of them, but looking for as many ideas as we can get. Really,
absolutely.
So we got this dress rehearsal. It's going to be interesting. I haven't talked to you about this, Will, but I've been dabbling in 0 RB a lot because it feels like the year to do it, and sitting here in the 9 spot feels like the spot to do it.
Yeah,
but I also want to
Michael Thomas gets back there, maybe.
Yeah, potentially. So I'm kind of in a spot of this is a dress rehearsal for us. I should take it seriously, do what I'm actually going to do, and then the other part of me is like, nah, just play around with 0 RB and see what the team looks like. So it's going to be an off the cuff decision when pick comes up, but we'll see. You ready to get started?
Yeah, let's get it going.
Cool. Let's get the show on the road. We had Christian McCaffrey go off the board at the 101. Saquon Barkley went off at the 102, and then Zeke Elliott went off at the 103.
All right, so that gets to me here, and with only a few picks off the board, everybody but running backs are available, and we're at this point only considering running backs. I think regardless of the scoring format, the first 4, probably even 5 running players for me are going to be running backs regardless. In a standard, Derrick Henry jumps into there as well. So I think the first 6 are going to be running backs, and then looking at Michael Thomas. But here in a half point, it's the debate of Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara for me. So if I'm in a half point or even a full point, maybe Kamara gets a little bit more of a boost. But I'm considering any of those top five. So I'm okay with any of them. So I'd almost rather be in the 4 or 5 spot here. Slightly earlier pick in the second round. If it's full PPR, it leans a little more Kamara. If it's standard, it probably leans a little more heavily toward Cook. So it's up in the air. I'm going to go with a guy that I think breaks out more in Dalvin Cook here. I think Kamara is good. He's going to get a ton of receptions. He's at 81, as I mentioned an episode or two ago. 81 each and every year in his first 3 years of the league. So you know what you're getting out of him, but the yardage, we'll see. I know that they've worked in Latavius Murray a little bit, and you're really, looking for something to pick at here at the running back position in the 4th spot. So I'm going to go with, I think, an upside guy who's going to be a run-first offense in Dalvin Cook and not look back here. So we'll draft Dalvin in the 1st round. After Cook goes Jacobs, Kamara, Michael Thomas, and Derrick Henry to you, Steve.
Ah, boy. It's the great decision. So, got all our quarterbacks, all our tight ends, all our wide receivers outside of Michael Thomas. At the running back position, we got Joe Mixon, we got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we got Nick Chubb, and Miles Sanders. So we have a lot of running back options, which makes it really difficult. But you know what? We'll play the game. We'll try a 0 RB approach. We'll see what happens. Devontae Adams is my first wide receiver. So, well, outside of Michael Thomas, but he's my top one on the board, I should say. So we're going to go ahead and draft him here. This is scary because I'm not going to get one of the top tight ends unless I draft him now. Oh, geez. Yeah. Kelsey just went.
Travis Kelce went
early. Yeah. So we had Joe Mixon, Tyreek Hill, and DeAndre Hopkins go off the board to round out the first. Julio Jones, Nick Chubb, and then Travis Kelce. Oh, man. I don't want to do it, but I don't think I could really resist it. I'm going to have to pivot and just go back to a normal strategy here. Because too many wide receivers went off the board and too many running backs have fallen to me. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, all still on the board for me. I don't think I could really pass that up. Like, I would love a wide receiver, but that tier is gone. And if I'm going 0 RB this late, I would like 2 in that tier. Like, Godwin's nice. Galladay's nice. Allen Robinson. I mean, they're all fine. But I could have a more upper echelon running back. So I'm going to have to pivot. That's unfortunate because I was kind of looking forward to testing that out, but I'm not going to force it if it's not going to come to me. So I've been drafting a lot of Clyde Edwards-Helaire lately. Those of you that follow us on Twitter see that I drafted him with the 105 in the Triple S Showdown League. So I'm going to pass on Clyde, given I've been drafting him so much, and I'm going to draft Miles Sanders. I haven't been drafting him very often, which is part of the reason that I want to pick him out here. I still love him. It's just I've been running into situations where I've been grabbing Clyde early or going with Drake or something like that. So we're going to go ahead and grab Mr. Sanders. I'm pretty happy with him as my one. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with him as my one. I mean, they've been talking him up as being a bell cow. I don't know if that's coach speak or what, but he should get plenty of carries and plenty of pass catching as well. We'll have to see how much Boston Scott eats into him, but I feel comfortable. I'll go ahead and lock him in here as we pivot on from this strategy. Pat Mahomes goes off the board right after me at the 205. Then Kenyon Drake, Chris Godwin, and finally Clyde Edwards-Helaire right before you.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Puts me in a position where if I want to, this is probably where I start to think about getting one of those top quarterbacks, top tight ends, and they're both one of each are off the board, but we still have Lamar Jackson and George Kittle available. So interesting options at the wide receiver position. We're looking at Kenny Galladay, Allen Robinson, Mike Evans, Juju, DJ Moore. I don't think I could justify taking any of them over Kittle, maybe not over Lamar. We'll see. Running back, we've got Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Chris Carson, James Conner, Todd Gurley. So you got Aaron Jones and Eckler, I think, in that tier above. For me, it's basically debating between one of the two of them, Lamar Jackson and George Kittle. I think I lean Kittle because he's probably the least likely to get back with 6 picks between and just 3 guys in that tier. unlikely that any of them get back, but I think Kittle is that positional advantage that I can get a little earlier here. Usually don't like to reach for tight ends, as we mentioned, but with a full mock here, I kind of want to see what the team's going to look like if I go early tight end. And I think I said I don't like to reach for tight ends, but I feel like in this mock season I have done the reach quite often. But I'm just not thrilled. I'm when I'm drafting out of the 4-5 spot, I'm hoping that a running back falls. And you got Aaron Jones, you got Austin Eckler, but I'm not in love with either of them. Eckler a little bit more with the half PPR. Jones, I just think he had so many touchdowns last year. He had a good amount of yards. He was over 1,500. But what do you have, like 19, 20 touchdowns? I just think there's regression coming. So I'm kind of waffling here because for me, it's probably Kittle or Eckler now for me. We'll go with Kittle just to see what happens. I'm just going to take that early tight end. I'd rather do it now and not like the team than do it in real draft team. So we'll go Kittle, stick to what my board had there. Aaron Jones goes, Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Chris Carson, Austin Eckler, and Mike Evans. So Lamar still on the board. That is very interesting and very enticing. We'll look at what else is there. The running back position, we've got Connor, Gurley, Fournette, Gordon, David Johnson. Not really thrilled with that grouping there. Not thrilled with the wide receivers either, though. So I think I'm going to go with a very uncharacteristic draft for the two of us here. I'm going to go quarterback and tight end early. It usually wouldn't, but the value I think is there for Lamar Jackson. I think this is right around where he should go, right around that turn second, third round. Kittle at the end of the second. It's a bold strategy, but I'm going to see what happens here. If we go early quarterback and early tight end, getting positional advantage at two positions there, as well as still having a really, really good running back that I think is going to be top 5. So it's interesting, but we'll see how this turns out.
Yeah, that's a different strategy for sure. So we had Odell Beckham, Adam Thielen, Todd Gurley, and Juju go off the board there. I was thinking that I can modify my approach again and go wide receiver here, and just go with one early running back and then rely on later guys after that. But lo and behold, Leonard Fournette has fallen to me, and with his sort of volume, I don't know that I could pass him up. So that strategy is also out the window. So this is just case in point as to why you got to stay flexible and change your strategy to what the draft is doing. Kind of like the popular phrases, your strategy's out the window once the first punch is thrown and all that stuff. So that is playing out here for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in Leonard Fournette. He's been rising on my board as I work on getting kind of my dynasty feelings from him out of the way. He's going to get a ton of volume this year. They haven't brought in anybody else outside of Chris Thompson, who I'm not entirely afraid of. He'll take some pass catching away, but not an overabundance of it, I don't think, especially when he gets hurt. And his touchdown numbers are bound to bounce back up. So I think he's got a solid year. At the very least, he's a volume guy, and I don't mind that for my 2. So we'll lock him in here and see what happens. We have Jonathan Taylor, Amari Cooper, DJ Moore go off the board. That rounds off the 3rd. And the 4th, AJ Brown. And then a pair of tight ends, Mark Andrews and Zach Ertz go off the board. So I am left with, at the running back position, James Conner, Melvin Gordon, David Johnson, Lev Bell, Mark Ingram. And at the wide receiver position, Robert Woods, Calvin Ridley, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, DJ McLaurin, or Terry McLaurin, wow. DJ Chark, too. We might as well just throw him in there since I started with him. So, yeah, I like this part of the draft because Robert Woods falls. So if I'm going to be realistic about what I'm going to do in a real draft, it's probably going to be to go ahead and grab Robert Woods here. I like that foursome to start the draft. Devontae Adams, Robert Woods, Miles Sanders, Leonard Fournette. That gives me a lot of flexibility moving forward. And makes me feel pretty comfortable about the team. So we're going to go ahead and lock him in. We'll see what gets back to me. I am worried about the running backs that get back to me, but we shall see. So we're going to go ahead and lock in Woods there. See what gets to you. Cooper Kupp goes right after. Melvin Gordon, Cortland Sutton, and Calvin Ridley.
All right. So we're just looking at the wide receiver and running back position, and at this point, really just kind of going best available the rest of the way here. Both teams behind me have 2 running backs and 1 wide receiver. So neither are really skewed one way that allow me to kind of rule a certain position out for them. Because I could see both of them going with a 3rd running back and a 2nd receiver here. So at the running back position, we've got James Conner still on the board, left bell, David Johnson. At wide receiver, we've got Lockett, McLaurin, DJ Chark. So we've got Allen, Metcalf. There's still more than enough wide receivers available that I like. And I think less RB2s that I like. It's really just, I think, a James Conner, David Johnson, left bell. I'm going to go with the guy that I haven't had a ton of options or a ton of shares of here in mock season in James Conner. Johnson and Bell, I think, are good, safe options. But I do think if Conner stays healthy, he has a huge upside with likely a really good offense around him. So we'll see what happens if we go Conner, possibly get one of those other 2 running backs back, or be able to go with a nice upside wide receiver, given that I've waited a little bit there and locked into other positions at the top. So,
yeah, I like that pick. He was jumping out at me too. I mean, like 44 is his ADP, so he's right about ADP, but he also feels like a value, like 4th round.
Yeah.
He's got big upside.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because we had maybe some other positions go a little earlier. We've got all 4 top tight ends off the board and obviously both quarterbacks, so maybe not, but definitely feels like kind of the value at running back. So get my 2nd running back there. After that, McLaurin, Lockett, Ingram, Chark, Allen, and Parker. So a little bit of a run at the wide receiver position, which presents an interesting option of being able to get a 3rd running back in David Johnson or left bell, or going in on one of the wide receivers that we have available in a DK Metcalf, EY, Diggs, Landry. There's a lot of maybe safer wide receiver options that are available for a later pick. So I think I've got to go with an upside wide receiver. I don't think there's really too many options left, as much as it'd be nice to get another safe 3rd running back. I think you got to think about the trade viability of players too, with Bell and David Johnson being kind of discounted in drafts because of their names. I imagine they're going to be discounted in people's valuation in trades. So if you're drafting the 3rd running back, as much as I'd like to get it to be able to have that flex locked in, is you always have it in the back of your mind that there's some trade asset there when you have 3 really good running backs. So I think I'm not sold that either of those 2 are going to be tradable or have much value. So I'm going to go with an upside wide receiver here in DK, and then maybe hope to pair him with the likes of a Landry or a Boyd. Likely they don't get back to me, but someone in that kind of safer option available there in the next round. So we'll go with DK as my first wide receiver. And after DK goes David Johnson and Lev Bell, who we spoke about, Kareem Hunt, and Devin Singleton.
Were you hoping Kareem Hunt got back to you?
To a degree, but I imagined that crop of wide receiver running backs would go, just judging by the back end of the draft there. With you, there's a lot of teams that only had 1 or 0 running backs.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have got past me, but I am kind of surprised to see him up in the 5th.
Yeah, I feel like 5th makes sense, maybe early 6th, but I think he's going to be a 5th round pick in a lot of drafts.
Yeah, fair. So we'll run down the board here. We got all our quarterbacks outside of Mahomes and Jackson. We got all our tight ends outside of Kittle, Kelsey, Ertz, and Andrews. At the running back position, we got David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, Ronald Jones, DeAndre Swift. At the wide receiver position, T.Y. Hilton, Stefan Diggs, Jarvis Landry, A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, Michael Gallup. So some solid options. As I said before, we're kind of in that tier wide receiver that I don't really like. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to grab a running back here to start. And I think I can make a case for all of them. You got a nice volume play in Montgomery. You got the San Francisco upside of Mostert, and then you got the Bruce Arians upside of Ronald Jones. They all come with their own risks as well. So it's really kind of pick your poison. It also feels a little early for Ronald Jones. I feel like he could get to me in the 6th. So maybe I just grab 2. But I think to start, I'm going to grab Montgomery, just get a volume play. I like having a volume play as my third running back. I already got Fournette, but Fournette I think has higher upside compared to your traditional volume plays like a Bell or a Montgomery. So we're going to go ahead and lock in Montgomery. We'll see what gets back to me. I'm kind of undecided looking forward, but Stefan Diggs, DeAndre Swift, and Cam Akers go off the board. That rounds out the 5th round. To start the 6th, Raheem Mostert, T.Y. Hilton, and Dak Prescott, which makes a lot of sense because here in the 6th round, people like Dak and Kyler, Watson, Wilson, they all start becoming interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But, if this is going to be a dress rehearsal, I'm still waiting. So, if one of them get back to me in the 7th, maybe we'll take a look. But for now, no. I will go ahead. I was considering Diggs. If Diggs would have got back to me, I probably would have pulled the trigger on him. But I'm going to grab another grab another running back here to give me 4, and then I could just pound the wide receiver position. So much for 0 RB. I grabbed 4 running backs in the first 6 rounds, so that plan clearly went out the window. For me, it's between Ronald Jones and Jordan Howard. I'm a big Jordan Howard guy this year. The problem is his ADP has been steadily rising. Like, I was on board with him. You could get him in like the 9th. He was a great value. Now he's sitting here. It's like, hey, you better take him in the 6th. And it's like, well, not going to have any pass catching opportunity. Breida could flat out win the job. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
No.
And I could wait and Breida might actually get back to me, which would be worrisome because then I'd be sitting on like 5 running backs. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to draft Rojo. As scary as that is, we'll draft him. We'll see what gets back to me. It gives me a lot of running backs moving forward. And, but I wouldn't be opposed to taking another running back because, as you said, trade bait. So it's never a bad thing to have too many running backs. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to lock him in. Michael Gallup goes off the board. There's Kyler, Hollywood Brown, and there is Russell Wilson. So the quarterbacks are starting to go. You are on the clock.
All right. Well, that works out for me. I'm not going to complain with more quarterbacks being drafted, given that I've already taken Lamar. When we take a look at the available players, we've got, as you mentioned, Watson still there, Allen, Ryan, Wentz, Breeze, tight end. We've got Waller, Ingram, Higbee, Henry. Interesting to take a look who's available. Watson would be nice here. Maybe I have Watson and a receiver there or running back instead of Lamar, but I think I'd probably rather still have Lamar based on the guys that are available. If we look at wide receiver, we've got Jarvis Landry. It seems like a nice pairing with DK Metcalf. We've got an upside shot in AJ Green and Tyler Boyd as well, so a couple of safer options in Jarvis and Boyd. Our boy Marvin Jones, Edelman, Fuller, Cook, so quite a few options at the wide receiver position. Running back does start to dry up a bit. We've got Howard, we've got Murray, Cohen, Dobbins, Gibson, White, Breida. So when I look behind me and see what's taken, it looks still pretty even. 3 running backs, 2 receivers, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 2 running backs, 3 receivers. So you imagine a couple backs will go, a couple receivers. Hopefully quarterbacks and tight end to get something back to me. But I'm going to go here with, I think, the top available guy that fits my team here, and that's Jarvis Landry. Fit him in as my wide receiver 2 to lock in everything but the flexes in my starting lineup. So we're going to go ahead and draft him and hope that maybe we can get like an upside shot like Dobbins to fall down to me there. But we'll see what gets back. So we go Jarvis. After Jarvis goes Darren Waller, Deshaun Watson, Hunter Henry, Josh Allen, AJ Green, and Tyler Boyd. So that couldn't really work out much better. 2 tight ends and 2 quarterbacks go off the board. Really helped me out given that I already have those positions. And then 2 Bengals receivers. I don't know that I would have went maybe AJ Green to get another upside guy because they've already got Jarvis. But it's interesting. So now we got.
Did you see he tweaked his hamstring?
Was that AJ?
Yeah.
I saw there was something about a precautionary reason. They said that they just took him off the field, but I still haven't seen anything about if there's anything serious.
Yeah, they said tweaked the hamstring, and they played it up like strictly precautionary. He stayed on the field. He didn't play, but stood on the sideline. No reason to be concerned. And it's like it's just screaming red flags.
Yeah,
like hamstring injuries already aren't cool.
I'm sorry, this is what happened last year. First day of training camp, I think he gets an ankle injury.
Yep.
Doesn't play another game.
Yeah,
Or
like
doesn't
hamstrings
practice at all.
linger, man. Like
They do.
You can give me like Mike Evans and tell me he had a hamstring injury. You'd be like, nope, I ain't playing that game. And with
Yeah.
freaking AJ Green, man, it's wild. I got him on my dynasty team, so I'm sweating.
Yeah, luckily I traded him away in Dynasty, but I've got him in the Triple S Showdown. So with him, tweaking and Tyler Lockett talking about maybe trying to opt out, my wide receiving core is looking a little scary. Luckily, I took them a little later in the draft, so bulked up in other positions. Getting back to this draft, though, we've got wide receiver Edelman, Jones, Fuller, Cooks. Not really too much I'm looking at here. I've got two, and I don't mind just taking upside shots on later receivers. Running backs, we've got Howard, Murray, Cohen, Dobbins, Gibson, White. So we've got a few options. Probably like Howard as the more ready guy, or take the upside shot in Dobbins and, wait half the year, but hopefully you get him to pop. Other than that, I mean, we're not looking at quarterback or tight end. So I think here, I don't know if maybe it's a little bit of a reach, but based on what's available, I think Dobbins makes the most sense for this team. Probably, he'll be in the flex position here during this draft, but I probably don't flex him right away. Later in the draft, maybe take a guy, a running back or receiver that can provide some points early on, and then hope that Dobbins can take over a little later. But we're going with Dobbins here. The first flex option, more likely first bench. But after him, Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram, Tyler Higbee, and Julian Edelman.
Okay, so we'll give a positional rundown here at the quarterback position. We had a ton go. Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford. At the running back position, we got Jordan Howard made it back to me. Wow. Latavius Murray, Tariq Cohen, Antonio Gibson, James White, Matt Breida. At wide receiver, Marvin Jones, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson. And then at tight end, Hayden Hurst, Gronk, Jared Cook, Mike Gesicki, Dallas Goedert. So this sucks. Now I regret the Leonard Fournette pick. Like, I could have grabbed Amari Cooper or DJ Moore here and then just grabbed Jordan Howard and just, I mean, there's a big difference between Fournette and Howard, but I'd be loaded at the running back position. Oh, boy. And I guess we should clarify for the listeners. You were just talking about the flex positions here. We got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. And I believe one flex, Will, is wide receiver tight end, and the other one is wide receiver running back.
I believe so. We talked about making them full flexes, but at this point, I believe it's a max of 3 running backs.
Yeah, max of 3 running backs. And I got 4. So,
consideration.
Yeah, like I get screaming value to me of Howard and then maybe even Breida with my next pick. So, like, got some options, but it almost doesn't make sense. So, we're going to go ahead and draft Marvin Jones. That's going to be no surprise to anyone. I am comfortable with him in my flex. I think he's got a lot of upside to him. His floor is kind of interesting. I mean, he gets a lot of targets, so from that standpoint, his floor is fine, but sometimes he ends up being a boom bust kind of guy. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to draft Marvin Jones. We're going to see what gets back to me. I don't feel like I have to go wide receiver, but we'll see. So Debo, Will Fuller, and Drew Brees round out the 7th. Brandon Cooks, Matt Ryan, and John Brown go off the board. It really was Fuller or Cooks that I wanted to get back to me. But you know what? I'm okay with a guy like Deontay Johnson here. We got Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Crowder, Mike Williams. I mean, you can make a case for all these guys. They're all pretty solid. But I like Deontay Johnson. If he, I feel like if he could just maintain the target share he had last year, he's going to be fine. He'll end up being like a wide receiver too. And with the, increased quarterback play, maybe that leads to a little bit more. So we will see. But at this point, I mean, he's going to be something. He's not just going to disappear. So even if he's just ended up like as a wide receiver 3 or something, that's fine because I don't need him. He's an official bench player here. So we're going to go ahead and lock him in and see what gets back to me. It's a really it's a shame. Jordan Howard's still on the board. Oh, man, this hurts.
Dreaming out to be picked.
Yeah, he is. That really hurts. And like I'm looking at the teams here. Right after me, you got Derrick Henry and Devin Singletary. Like, adding Jordan Howard there is awesome. And then same for Team 6 over here, Kamara and Bell. Like, you're adding some great depth plays there. So someone's going to get lucky. Maybe it'll be you. We'll see. We're going to lock him in here and see who goes off the board. Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, And there he goes. Aaron Rodgers and then Jordan Howard finally right before you.
Right off the board, right in front of me. It's pretty brutal. So if we look, we've got Wentz, Brady, Stafford, Jones, Roethlisberger, Newton, Goff at quarterback, Hurst, Gronk, Cook, Gesicki, Goddard, Hooper, Hawkinson at tight end. So always got to take a look at those to kind of remind yourself who's available here. To kind of note that maybe you don't have to go with that type of quarterback early. So good to use just as a tool before you're drafting. You're doing a mock that has your own settings in it. We're looking at the running back and wide receiver position. At wide receiver, we've got Kirk, we've got Crowder, Williams, Shepard, Manuel Sanders, Tate, Miller, Williams, Rager. Still quite a few wide receivers that I wouldn't mind. I think I probably want to get a fourth running back here before it starts to dry up. Latavius Murray, Cohen, Gibson, White, Breida. Really only looking at maybe an upside shot in Gibson or what I imagine is kind of a safer shot in Matt Breida. Maybe there's a chance Breida gets back, but I think overall probably doubtful. So I think I'm going to lock in Breida here because I'm more okay with a lot of the wide receivers coming up here. So Breida will slot in as my first flex, and then I'll probably get a receiver as the second flex. The next one with Dobbins, kind of that hopefully first man off the bench to take over if he's able to produce. So we'll go Matt Breida here first. After Breida goes Brady, White, Judy, Sanders, Kirk, and Sony, which is nice because I really wasn't considering any of them. Actually, Kirk maybe. Sony's not a bad volume play if you need something later, but that's really beneficial based on the receivers available. Crowder would be nice had I not been able to get a safer option like Landry and had to take another upside shot there. McWilliams is a nice, interesting upside shot for me here. Shepard, Golden Tate, Preston Williams, Jalen Rager. A lot of good options. I'm going to go with an upside shot at wide receiver since I've already got DK and Jarvis, and we're going to go with Jalen Rager. Probably one of the only rookie receivers that I really see having an impact just because he's forced to have an impact, and I just really like the tape coming out. I think he fits the offense really well. Really good yards after the catch, and he can be a deep threat, gets to learn behind Jackson, but really play with him on the field, which is going to be nice. It sounds like he'll be on the outside with Jackson, and Greg Ward is actually practicing out of the starting slot. So that's kind of your receiving core when they're running three wide right now, which is interesting. So if that holds up, I think Rager's due for a big season. So we'll go with Rager, and then maybe get another safer receiver option in the next couple rounds here. So after we lock in Rager, we got Mike Williams, Philip Lindsay, Jamison Crowder, and Darius Geis.
Wow, I'm surprised Geis is still getting grabbed up because I thought his ADP had tanked on Fantasy Pros.
I guess maybe it just takes some time for the computer algorithms to really weed it out.
Yeah, still adjusting, but here we go. We got Latavius Murray, Tariq Cohen, Antonio Gibson, Kerryon Johnson, Tevin Coleman, Zach Moss. At the wide receiver position, Sterling Shepard, Anthony Miller, Golden Tate, Preston Williams. So a lot of solid options here. So I'll read off the other ones too. We got quarterback Carson Wentz still here, Matt Stafford, Daniel Jones, Ben Roethlisberger. So some good quarterbacks at the tight end position. Really the same ones. Yeah, none went in the past 2 rounds here. Hayden Hurst, Gronk, Cook, Gesicki, and Goddard. Very interesting. But I am going to stick with my typical strategy. We'll probably add a running back here and a wide receiver. I feel like adding an upside shot on Antonio Gibson. I'm not really sold on him. I don't know if we've really talked about it on the pod too much. It comes off as a gadget guy to me. I could see him getting third round of work and really just being the AP show. But he's got a lot of upside given what has transpired in this team. Will, what do you think of Antonio Gibson?
I don't know what to think. And I guess this 9th round is probably where you start taking him because there's not too many upside shots at the position anymore. Part of me thinks that the offense is going to be bad, and for the same reasons that I really like Terry McLaurin, or I guess some of the reasons, because I think McLaurin's a really good player as well. But there's going to be a lot of negative game scripts, and McLaurin's going to get a lot of looks at just being thrown his way. And that should probably be the case for Gibson as well, right? If your team, if you're the Redskins, you're down, the Washington football team, and you're down, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns in the second half, you're going to be playing a lot of catch up. There's going to be a lot of, just throwing the ball. And Gibson likely is going to be the guy if he can prove to be able to pass block. He doesn't have a ton to pass, and he's probably the biggest upside shot of the team. Maybe, Love at running back, but you know what you got in AP, and you know what you got in Pete Barber. So, I mean, he definitely has a lot of upside. I don't know. I don't know unless it's like a best ball. I think he's more appealable there. I probably don't get him here because I imagine someone takes him here or sooner. I'd probably go with him in the late 9th, early 10th at the earliest, but I don't imagine he gets this far.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. And there's plenty of other shots you could take here. Like Zach Moss is here, and he's pretty interesting. You could wait. Like, I don't know if I would have an opportunity for him, but you could be looking at like an AP. So there's other interesting shots you could take if he is not your guy. But given my running back group of Sanders, Fournette, Montgomery, and Ronald Jones, I can afford to take an upside shot. So we're going to go ahead and draft him. We'll see what gets back to me after we go through the turn. So we had Marlon Mack, Keyshawn Vaughn, Sterling Shepard. That rounds out the 9th. In the 10th, Kerryon Johnson, Tariq Cohen, and Mecole Hardman. So no one going off the board that I was super interested in. I mean, Vaughn's kind of interesting, but let's take a look at the wide receiver position. Anthony Miller, Golden Tate, Preston Williams, Curtis Samuel. So a lot of people I like. N'Keal Harry. We'll read off my group here. Devontae Adams, Robert Woods, Marvin Jones, and Deontay Johnson. So pretty set there. I got a lot of interesting options. I don't think there's anything here that necessitates a need. I mean, I guess you could say, Marvin Jones is a little bit risky because sometimes it could be boom bust, and Stafford's, got a little bit of a back issue going on. I mean, not that we've heard this year, but obviously last year the injury, the year before he played through it. And you have some risk with Deontay Johnson, just being a second-year guy, never really played with Big Ben. So, maybe you can craft a narrative that like a Golden Tate is more interesting here. I think I would rather pass on that, even though it is kind of interesting. I mean, even without the narrative, Golden Tate's a pretty interesting player, but I'm going to take another upside shot, and I'm going to take that shot on Preston Williams. And I delay because I like Anthony Miller. I really do. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of it's the quarterback situation. Like, I don't like Trubisky. Sorry, Eagles fans. I'm not a Foles guy either. I mean, he's an upgrade, I think, but like, whatever.
For how many games?
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, I love Fitzpatrick. I love the dude that just chucks the ball all over the place. And, if he's in there for 8 games and then it's Tua, I don't know what kind of quarterback Tua is going to be, but I know his rushing is going to open things up for everybody. So I think Preston will be okay in that regard too. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in there as a nice upside play. He had a nice floor while he was playing last year too, so maybe best of both worlds. But we'll lock him in. Justin Jefferson going off the board right after me, the 10:05. Robbie Anderson, there goes AP, and then Anthony Miller. To you.
All right, so we've got a lot of the running backs off the board there. Now, if we're looking at guys, not too much left. We've got Murray, we've got Coleman, Moss, Henderson, Madison, Scott, Johnson, Pollard. So you've got some upside shots. Really, the only things left that are intriguing, like Moss, Madison, and Pollard, are your upside shots. In a redraft, I am not taking drafting my handcuff, but in this year, it's probably a little more paramount. So I'll probably look to get Madison in the next round or two here. In a real draft, I'd maybe have to take him earlier because I'm sure someone would reach for him, just, trying to steal away the handcuff. I'm usually not going to trade much for him, but I feel like people may have that in mind to make a trade. So I'm looking to go Madison, but probably on the next round. I don't know that he gets drafted here in the next few. So we look at the position wide receivers available, and a guy that I really like that I think is a nice safe option to pair with Metcalf, Landry, and Rager is Golden Tate. I could see him being one of the higher scorers on that team, right? He doesn't have the huge upside of Slayton, or kind of the young outlook, value that you have with Shepard. Tate just kind of seems like a discounted player, but I really like him this year. I think he'd be a really nice third option to put in there. If Rager's not panning out and Dobbins isn't ready, I wouldn't mind flexing in Tate and Breida, knowing that I've got two upside guys in Dobbins and Rager behind. So we'll go Tate with the hopes of getting that first handcuff in with Dalvin Cook in the next round. So we go with Tate. We've got Coleman, Murray, Henderson, Johnson. That's Duke Johnson, Hayden Hurst, and Zach Moss. So a lot of running backs go off the board, which for me lucks out that we still do have my handcuff that I'm going to go with here in Madison. There's really not any other running backs that I'm really liking. Pollard, Edmonds are, upside shots if you want to handcuff or if you want to get a guy that could break out if the starter goes down. Damian Harris is interesting too. I've seen some news. I mean, obviously there's a lot of hype out. Getting a lot of sleeper updates about hype, which is fun just because we got football back. But yeah, you take it with a grain of salt, knowing what it likely is. But a lot of people are saying that Damian Harris is looking really good in New England camp. They carry the load, especially if Sony's not available to start the season. So he could be an interesting option. But for me here, I'm going to get that handcuff in this uncertainty of a COVID year, and we're going to lock in Alexander Madison. I imagine I'd probably have to take him maybe a little sooner in regular drafts, but luckily he's still available here. So we're going to lock him in. We go Alexander Madison for that handcuff, and then in the 11th round, after that, we go Jared Cook, Pollard, Scott, and Rob Gronkowski.
You're going to find this hard to believe, but I was going to draft Gronk. At this point in the 11th round, that's awesome for me. I mean, I think his ADP is like in the 9th.
Yeah, it's got to be earlier than that.
Yeah, I mean, we went a long time without any tight ends being drafted. I'm surprised Hayden Hurst. I mean, I've mentioned before, I really like him this year. I'm surprised he fell this far too. So the strategy there, and what I was going to say, is I'll take the shot on Gronk, and if he's Gronk, I win. And if he's not Gronk, then I would be comfortable picking up somebody like a Herndon or a Jarwin. Maybe even I'll burn my last pick on him just to see what Gronk has in week 1. I think I did that last year.
It's not a bad idea. I've heard people talking about going with, 2 different tight end upside shots, or, at the end of the draft, maybe going with Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel, pairing both of them, seeing which one goes off.
Yeah, and I did it last year. I grabbed Mark Andrews, which, was a risk. We believed in him, but it was a risk. With my very last pick, I grabbed Jordan Reed because I really thought he was going to be ready for week 1, and it turns out he wasn't ready ever again. So whatever.
Until this year, because he's back.
Yeah, until this year
in San Francisco.
We shall see. So on the clock or on the board, we got Wentz, Stafford, Daniel Jones, Big Ben, Cam Newton. So still got some quality quarterbacks
really
there.
Paying off with the quarterback weight for you there.
Big time. At running back, it is now dry here, folks. DeAndre Washington, Josh Kelly, Chase Edmonds, Darrington Evans, Damian Harris, Naheem Hines, Anthony McFarland.
This is why we say you got to go with those running backs a little earlier, because there's just not that many that are appealing.
Yeah, 100%. And I kind of feel like I should have grabbed a 5th one earlier when I was debating, because I like a lot of these wide receivers. Curtis Samuel's interesting. I'm kind of high on N'Keal Harry this year with Cam there. Bashad Perriman's like the only person there outside of Crowder. Alan Lazard, everyone likes. Sammy Watkins is an interesting shot. I know everybody kind of laughs about that, but still high-powered offense. Djax is interesting. Ayuk is now quite interesting. So you got a lot of options there. It's kind of a sucky situation where I wish I could own a lot of these people, and I just can't. So it is what it is. I will go ahead and I'm going to take a shot on N'Keal Harry. I think he's got the highest upside of the group. I mean, Curtis Samuel's interesting, but his upside isn't like a wide receiver 2 or 1. I mean, I hesitate to call N'Keal Harry a 1, but I mean, Cam Newton, don't forget the draft profile from Harry. I mean, he had a bad rookie year, often injured, but this dude was drafted to be elite. Shot Perriman, I really don't like. Alan Lazard doesn't have that kind of upside to him. So, I mean, he's got a lot of upside to him, and I'm okay taking that shot. So, we're going to go ahead and draft N'Keal Harry. We'll see what gets back. Maybe this is where I strike at quarterback. DeAndre Washington, Jamal Williams, and Austin Hooper goes off the board. LaShawn McCoy, A.J. Dillon, and Djax. So it's interesting. I'm looking here. Everyone behind me has a quarterback. Everyone in front of me has a quarterback. So unless people start doubling up, I mean, Wentz, Stafford, not Daniel Jones. Wentz, Stafford, Cam Newton, Goff, Big Ben. I'm fine with all of them. So I guess I'll just wait. Why not? I mean, man, Wentz and Stafford here in the 12th round is insane.
That's crazy value for both.
Yeah, that's a big win.
What did we say? How many teams on average double down on quarterback in this league? 3?
In our league, personally, we're up to 4. So we did 4 last year, so we got it down to 3 the year before. Last year was 4, so we're hitting it around that 4
somewhere
mark.
In that range. So you got to bank on maybe at least 2 to 4 not being available around if they go early here with only 3.
For sure, and we have a particular friend who I know would be drafting Big Ben here if he was between me and my next pick. But that aside, I also don't know what to add. I really want to add another running back, but I don't love them. I mean, you had mentioned Damian Harris. I'm not a Damian Harris guy based on him doing absolutely nothing last year. The camp reports are nice, but he's the only running back there. He looks really good after Sony can't play, after Lamar Miller can't. He beat up Burkhead, big deal. So I'm not that high on him, but given the injuries, he could be the guy. So I'll take the shot on Damian Harris here and see what I end up with.
Patriots.
I know, right? Very interesting move, yeah. Carlos Hyde, Chase Edmonds, Carson Wentz, there he goes, and Nyheim Hines go off the board before you.
Yeah, so not looking at quarterback or tight end as usual. We usually don't double down, but I think it's even more imperative. You just can't afford to take 2 players at those positions when you go early on them. So we're looking at the running back position, and I think Harris is really the only one that I was even considering. So probably am done with them. So really probably just going wide receiver the rest of the way here. There's really not anybody else. Maybe you take your shot on Bryce Love, maybe a Jerick McKinnon in the next round if I really want to go. It's another upside shot there, but we're going to go look at the wide receiver position. We've got Curtis Samuel on the board, who is a nice upside shot that could still have a chance there. We've got Rashad Perryman, Alan Lazard, Sammy Watkins, Brandon Ayuk. There's Campbell said to be looking pretty good. A lot of the rookies still available. For me, it's probably taking on the upside shot of Curtis Samuel here. Don't love what the offense could be here with him and Robbie Anderson taking some targets away from each other. You imagine there's going to be a lot of negative game script with that team being down a lot. We'll see what Teddy can do. So we'll take our shot with Curtis Samuel here and see what gets back to me here in the next round. So we go Curtis, after Samuel, Alshon Jeffrey, Lamar Miller, Brandon Ayuk, TJ Hawkinson, and Matt Stafford. So looking, potentially going with my guy Alan Lazard. Got Paris Campbell, Watkins still there. I think running back, I mentioned his name as we were going over them, and I'm going to have to go with an upside shot and a guy here that I know Steve and I are both fond of, and that's Jerick McKinnon. Supposed to be looking really good in camp, and he's probably going to be one of those guys that Steve and I compete over at the end of this actual draft here, probably somewhere in the last 3 rounds, who strikes first on him. But we're going to go McKinnon here, get a 6th running back with one of them being a handcuff, so you want to really have 5 kind of independent running backs. Go McKinnon and just leave it open for that last pick to be just kind of best available. So after McKinnon, Fant, Sammy Watkins, Larry Fitzgerald, and Rashad Penny.
Oh boy, it's interesting how this draft has played out. So I have my pick at quarterbacks here. We only got 2 picks. I got to grab a quarterback and a tight end. I don't have either yet. So we have our pick at the quarterback position. I will take the upside shot on Cam Newton here. Pair him with N'Keal Harry. That'd be pretty cool if that turned into a thing. That's a league-winning decision right there. If I could get a big combo like that going this late, but he's got upside that none of the other guys have, and if he doesn't pan out, then I mean, look at the people that are going to be on waivers. Daniel Jones, Big Ben, Jared Goff, Ryan Tannehill, Baker, Burrow. I'm fine with all them people. So we'll grab the upside shot of Newton. After that pick goes Darrington Evans, Tyrod Taylor, which is dumb, but okay. Devonta Freeman, whatever. Raquel Armstead, Michael Pittman, and Brashad Perryman. It's funny. When I was doing this draft, when we were like halfway through the draft, I made the decision that I would just wait until the last round and grab a tight end. And I'm like, you know what? I'll grab Herndon. I'll talk up Herndon a little bit. I think all our listeners know that me and you are big supporters of Herndon.
Mm-hmm.
But here I am. Gesicki, Goddard, Jarwin, Jonnu, Jack Doyle, Eric Ebe. Like, holy cow. There's so many tight ends. And this is definitely one of the reasons we moved to Fantasy Pros, because if we were on Sleeper right now, this would not be the situation.
No.
These people would be doubling up on tight ends. And I've never done any research on our league specifically and how many people double up on tight ends. I feel like there's a few. We definitely got some people that draft just to have a backup. But it's probably like 3. So like knock off Gesicki, Goddard, and Jarwin, and we're still sitting with my guy, Jonnu Smith there. So I can't pass that up. I'm going to go ahead and just draft Jonnu Smith with my last pick. That is incredible value. I love that. So a little bit of a tight end run. Gesicki and Rudolph go off the board. Justice Hill, Daniel Jones, you are on the clock with your last pick.
All right. Pretty easy for me, as I mentioned his name earlier. Going to be Alan Lazard for me. There's not really any running backs that appeal to me. You got Chris Thompson, maybe Malcolm Brown have some value early in the season. Tight end, you mentioned there's still quite a few. So got Goddard, Doyle, Jarwin, Ebron, Herndon. So definitely have the option of maybe waiting on Kittle, going with another big running back receiver there. And getting, a guy like Jarwin, Herndon, Doyle, Goddard, as I mentioned, a lot of position options there. You got Ben, Goff, Tannehill, Mayfield, Burrow. Once again, a lot of good quarterbacks I like there. So probably don't go with the quarterback and tight end early. You really sacrifice a lot. I do like the team that I put together despite it, but I think I would like it a lot better having a couple of their bigger positional players there. So we'll break down the team in a minute here, but we're going to go with Lazard as my last pick. Ton of upside there. I think there's really not a lot of competition for that wide receiver 2 in Green Bay, so Lazard makes the most sense for me. So we lock in Lazard, and to round out the draft here, there we go. And we round out the draft here with Jack Doyle, Will Disley, and Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and give a rundown of our team. Will, you can go first. I'm really curious as to what you're going to say, given you went tight end and quarterback early, but there's extreme value late in both those positions. So I'm really curious.
Yeah. So we'll go positional breakdown here. So we've got Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Dalvin Cook, James Conner, Matt Breida, J.K. Dobbins, Madison, and McKinnon at running back, DK Metcalf, Landry, Rager, Tate, Samuel, Lazard at wide receiver, and George Kittle at tight end. Overall, if I'm going to go early quarterback and early tight end, I think this is one of the better teams I can really put together around it, right? Because you've got those positions locked down, never have to really worry about taking a second one aside from injury or bye week. But you got those positions locked in. I think I've really got RB1 locked in with Cook. And a lot of good upside shots to fill in at those positions. But overall, if I'm doing a draft, I'm probably not pulling the trigger on both early positions. Didn't think, Lamar get back to me in the third. So I probably in the second, if they're both available, have to take one of the running back receivers. And then say if one gets back to me there, then it's just great value. You take them. But I don't know that I can take that one in the second there. Like the team, but don't love the strategy.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I will run down my team. I do want to clarify first, since we've been talking that this is like specific for our league. We do have a defense and a kicker. We do not draft defenses or kickers on our mock drafts because they tend to go in the last 2 rounds, and no one really cares. So we just take them out. With that in mind, running down my team at quarterback, Cam Newton. At the running back position, Miles Sanders, Leonard Fournette, David Montgomery, Ronald Jones, Antonio Gibson, and Damian Harris. At wide receiver, Devontae Adams, Robert Woods, Marvin Jones, Deontay Johnson, Preston Williams, N'Keal Harry, and then at tight end, Jonnu Smith. I love this team. There's nothing I can really look at and say I would rather do this differently. I could get away instead of going with probably not Marvin Jones, but like a Deontay Johnson and grabbing Jordan Howard, giving myself a fifth early running back that I trust, and then skipping out on Antonio Gibson. Instead of him, I grab, I don't even know, Anthony Miller and then Preston Williams with my 10th. Or maybe I skip out on Damian Harris and I grab the upside of Djax or Curtis Samuel or Alan Lazard or something like that. So there's some minor things that I can do in the middle here to tweak things. But overall, I like this team. The wide receiver core, I would be starting Adams, Robert Woods, and Marvin Jones with Deontay Johnson. Could swap in for the flex and then some upside plays in Preston Williams, N'Keal Harry, Preston Williams, and Deontay Johnson. I'm comfortable with his bye week fillers. At the running back position, probably starting Sanders, Fournette, and Montgomery, but you definitely have Ronald Jones there that could end up emerging and being a real great, valuable asset, and he would end up dethroning Montgomery, especially if Montgomery has another year like last year. I like this team a lot. This turned out quite interesting, given I wanted to go 0 RB, and then I couldn't because of the value, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll just draft running back or wide receivers, and I couldn't because Fournette fell, so given the chaos of getting around, I really, I ended up liking this team quite a bit.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You were thinking that. I, could have never thought that I would have went tight end, quarterback, my first 3 picks. But that's why you got to stay water, because things change, positions fall to you, and you have to be ready to draft around it. And that's why we mock draft, to get ready for the season, because you don't know what's going to fall to you in your home drafts for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to stay flexible there. So that is going to close out today's episode here. Please give us a follow on Twitter at TrustYourBoard. Give us a like if you're listening to us on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating on your podcasting app. If you could, we'd really appreciate it. Till next time, folks, trust your board.